So, for those who don't know me or haven't talked to me, my name is Bryce Lyons, and I'm actually here to talk about party politics. And I know politics is particularly like a subject that a lot of people tend to avoid. So I'm actually going to start this up with a funny politic picture. If everybody likes, like superheroes or in comics or anything like that, they make a lot of money. Batman has money. Iron Man has money, and it kind of just, sometimes it feels like whenever they debate, it kind of seems like this is what's going on. And this is, the next picture is something that I've seen quite often on social media and things like that about the Democrats and Republicans, is that because considering the Democrats are liberal and the Republicans are conservative, and a lot of times when people compare the Democrats and Republicans, which is my main two that I'm focusing on today, because those are the oldest and the original political parties, and since 1953, every president that we've had has either been a Democrat or Republican. And you can see, like, on the spectrum, the more left you go, the more liberal, it seems it goes, and the more right-wing, more conservative it goes, it seems, that's the way that goes that direction. But a lot of people, especially when it comes to social media and media sources and things like that, and there's quite a bit of bias. It seems like, there's actually one side or the other. Like, you're either for this or you're against it, you either agree with me or you don't. You're either red or you're blue. And what if I told you that it's actually more like this, where there's a little bit of liberal and conservatism within each party, and there's actually, instead of them being on two spectrums or they're against each other, they're actually two sides of the same coin that actually fit together, and that's what actually makes our government. And with the Democrats now being liberal and the Republicans being conservative, this was actually not always like this. Prior to the Civil War, the Republicans were actually liberal and the Democrats were actually conservative. The Democrats sided with being pro-slave for the South to gain Southern vote and to stay in office, and Abraham Lincoln and other Republicans were against slavery. So during the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation, when slaves were free, the Republicans were the ones that pushed that. And after slavery and after the Civil War, during Reconstruction, it stayed just about like that. The Republicans actually adopted a policy that's French called laissez-faire, which pretty much is, when it comes to the economy, they try to not interfere as little as possible. Let business do their thing, let capitalism do its thing, and everything I did will be okay. And they had kept that policy for the most part through the late 1800s and the early 1930s, until about the time where the stock market crashed. When the stock market crashed, Herbert Hoover was actually president. He was a Republican. And part of the thing with laissez-faire is that, and part of the problem with that was that they did not want to interfere in the economy. So the Great Depression was very bad for a lot of people. So during the time in 1932, when Herbert Hoover was for re-election, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, came in, and he actually blew the election out. He won by a huge margin. And with that, a lot of Democratic senators came in as well, and they introduced the New Deal, and they introduced things like Social Security and welfare. And pretty much from that point, from about 1932 to about 1950, there was actually not a Republican president, and it was actually a Republican actually was pushed out for about 20 years. So a lot of liberal ideas came in, and from that moment, the Democrats were considered liberal, and Republicans were considered conservative. So you can see that in times of our history, both parties at one point had to step up and say, hey, what we're doing is not working, it's time for a change. So there's actually a little bit of liberalism, a little bit of conservatism on each side. And even today, with as many issues that we have going on, the Republicans and Democrats have platforms that they've established, that they set up, so, pretty much the people know what they're trying to do and what their plan is for each particular issue. One of the issues is the economy. We have one of the things that the Republicans actually want to do when it comes to the economy is actually do tax cuts and pretty much give businesses tax cuts, because big businesses and corporations face a lot of the highest tax rates in the world, and that's made a lot of businesses put their headquarters and things like that overseas and taking factories and jobs from American people. So ideally, if they have to spend less money on taxes, they'll ideally come back to the United States, start headquartering back in the United States again, give people more jobs, more people have jobs, unemployment goes down, everything's good from there. And so you can see a little bit of the laissez-faire, a little bit, in what the Republicans are trying to do with, taking that workload off of businesses. And what the Democrats are actually want to do, they're focusing a little bit more on the people and actually doing things like raising minimum wage. Raising minimum wage to about, depending on the state, about $15 an hour, paid maternity leave, things like that. So both these ideas, when you look at it unbiasedly, they seem pretty good, like on paper. But the problem is with that is that it's not a this or that kind of thing. What if they actually try to work together and try to come up with some type of middle ground that actually could benefit both business and the people itself? Another issue that has been mentioned a lot is the environment. Both the Democratic and Republican parties understand that the environment is an issue. We need to move on from, fossil fuels and move on to more renewable, clean resources. The Democrats are focusing more on, in their platform, focusing more on solar panels, solar energy, wind turbine, things like that. The Republicans are focusing, instead of more on solar energy and solar power, they want to focus on nuclear. We actually have about 20 nuclear power plants across our country, and they actually do give us a good portion of our power, but we're only limited to those amount of nuclear energy. Other than that, there's other issues that are still issues such as healthcare, like the Affordable Care Act. The Democrats and Barack Obama passed the Affordable Care Act, and has actually been very good for a lot of people, including myself and relatives that I know, and a lot of people who didn't have access to healthcare have healthcare now. But the thing is that there are still certain problems with the Affordable Care Act that haven't been tweaked yet, such as certain businesses, Papa John's is one of the examples, because of the fact that they have to give their full-time workers, they have to at least offer them health care. What they want to do is, if they have to be full-time, if they have to work more than 30 hours a week, I'm going to cut their hours. I'm going to make sure that they don't work 30 hours a week so that they're not eligible for that health care. So it's going to save me some pennies. Also, things like deductibles have gone up. Drugs, pharmacy prices have gone up. And the Democrats see this, and they want to get changes to the Affordable Care Act. And Republicans also want to make changes to this. The Republicans mainly are trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act, but the problem and why that has not happened so far is because they're trying to come up with a alternative to the Affordable Care Act, so that there's still some type of insurance, or there's still something out there for the people who need it. And other than that, that is the only examples I would like to I have for that, and those are my sources, and that's it. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Do you think this has changed your views on political parties at all?
Slightly, because I had to go in on both the Democrat and Republican platforms and look at their stances. So when it comes to my personal opinion on certain issues and things like that, it has changed my opinions quite a bit. All right, well, thank you for your time, guys.